White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre joins me now to talk about the president's gun policy and more. Karine, welcome to the program. I want to get your response to Indiana Republican Senator Mike Braun, who called this order, quote, so extreme, even the Democratic-controlled Senate would never pass this bill that is a blatant assault on our Second Amendment rights, end quote. What does that say about the prospects of finding Republican support for passing a bill to expand background checks on gun purchases?
Hi, Elaine. Thank you so much for having me on this evening. First of all, I just want to reiterate what the president just said in that clip you just showed, which is this is not against the Second Amendment right. This will not get in the way of that. What the president is trying to do is he wants to make sure that we try to save lives. You know, when we talk about gun violence reduction, this is an issue that this president has worked on throughout his career to make sure that we're protecting lives when it comes to domestic violence, mass shootings, community violence. And so he believes that we need to take action, and that's what he did today. He put forth some very clear rules, actions on how we can move forward with this country and, again, start to save lives, American lives that we're seeing being lost, just like as you just mentioned with these recent shootings. And so, yes, he said this in that clip you just showed. It will take time. This will not be easy, but we have to take action. And in Congress, there are two pieces of legislation that passed the House bipartisan, in a bipartisan way. And so now it's time to move those as well and get that into the Senate, and for the Senate to move those pieces of legislation. And the president is going to work very hard, as he has committed, as he has said, to make sure that happens.
Yeah, your boss, Press Secretary Jen Psaki, told our Ed O'Keefe this afternoon that President Biden is not going to wait for Congress to act before issuing more gun control orders. Karine, what does that sort of action look like practically?
Yeah, I think for him, and what she meant by that is we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can go ahead and support the legislations that's in Congress and work closely with Congress and encourage Congress to move those along. And also we can take actions like the president did today when he's instructing the Department of Justice to give a rule, to take 30 days to give a rule. And it's 30 days because we need to follow the law, as you can imagine, to make sure we try to stop the proliferation of ghost guns, right? As we're talking about red flag laws. Also, the DOJ has 60 days to create models, legislation, so that states can be able to put those into law. Red flag laws would be incredibly important and will help save lives as well. We're talking about community violence, intervention violence program. That's $5 billion in the American Jobs Plan right now that we're moving along. We're trying to move along as well. We're going to work with Congress to make sure that we're putting money into communities to stop the violence. So there are things that he just did today, and this is just the first step. There will be more to come, and really, trying to push and deal with this epidemic, as he called it today, a public health crisis as well, as he called it today.
Karine, in Arkansas right now, there's a bill making its way through the legislature that would declare all federal gun laws null and void in the state, similar to the fight we're seeing over voting changes. How is the federal government going to keep up with states who seem much quicker to pass changes on issues like these?
Yeah, and we're going to let the Department of Justice do their job. We instructed them on these new actions today, and then they'll come back in 30 days and in 60 days with the direction that the president has asked them to take, and we'll continue to have that conversation. Like I said, this is not going to be easy, but we have to do something. We have to work with Congress. We have to be able to use the federal government in the best way to make sure that we are taking action and we're saving lives, once again, saving Americans' lives. We're losing too many lives to gun violence. And so this is something that's important, incredibly important to the president. You heard the vice president as well, something that they have spent their career making sure that we continue to reduce gun violence in communities and across this country.
And Karine, while we have you here, I want to ask about the president's infrastructure plan. The White House has repeatedly said you're open to negotiation with lawmakers inside and outside of the party. What sort of back and forth is going on with Republicans right now?
So, as you know, Elaine, last week the president announced the American Jobs Plan, which is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in the country, to invest in American families, and to really create millions of jobs, which is something that is so critical, especially as we saw this past year of the pandemic and what it has done to our country. So we can't go back the way it was before. We have to make sure that we create jobs and give opportunities for Americans here in this country. And so what he basically has said, this is his plan. And he, even then, before we announced the plan, there was conversations that was happening in a bipartisan way with Congress, with staff. And so we've been having those conversations from the beginning. And as you know, we've had multiple congressional bipartisanship, congressional members, senators here having meetings with this president, at least 2 infrastructure focused meetings that we've had here. And so that's been happening. Now that the plan has been laid out for, and then we're saying this is how you pay for this plan because he believes in fairness. He believes this needs to be paid for. He wants to hear. He wants to hear, okay, what are folks are going to offer? What are they going to say? How do we pay for this if you feel that there's other ways to do this? So we're going to have those conversations. Congress comes back next week. He's totally open to hearing from all sides. As we know, this is someone, the president was senator for 36 years. He was able to work in a bipartisan way and make big things happen. And this is what he is going to try to do. And we got to remember as well, Elaine, this American Jobs Plan has bipartisan support across the country. We saw a poll that had more than 70% of Americans supported the American Jobs Plan. 57% in that poll came from Republicans. So this is a bipartisan issue. So this is something that we should be able to come together and do for the American people.
Karine Jean-Pierre. Karine, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I appreciate it.